So previously on Devlog 1, we created a new project named Tatya the doll and somehow made our player to walk and look properly without falling. Then we gave our player the power of grabbing and dropping things, and also extending this functionality we added open and closed door mechanics. And finally we gave life to Tatya so that he can chase the player. Nice. Now it's time to go further and make our game have some better mechanics. So here comes the first small mechanic, which is player crouching. If you don't know what is crouching, then let me tell you, it's nothing but making the player size half. So I implemented it very quickly and it was working well. But it looked kind of stiff, so to make it smooth I used lerp, which basically makes everything very smooth. Also I added a touch button for crouching and standing with Unity's event system, and now you can see it feels quite smooth. As it is a horror game, so it's important to have darkness in the environment. So we need a torch, but as you know the target is mobile platform, so it might take some FPS. Even after knowing this, I implemented holding a torch for now at least, and afterwards I will check if the game runs smoothly. After adding all the mechanics, then I can think of keeping the torch. Anyways, now to check all the game functionality, we need a proper environment. And in our game, you know already, we need a creepy house. And you have guessed it right, we have to make one. So I opened Blender and added an CREEPIEST pack, which basically makes designing a house very easy. Yes, really. All things were going well and suddenly... So after spending 3 days making the house, a point came where the whole dimension of the house got messed up, and when I tried to fix it, it was more complex than making a new one. So I gave up and used the old school method in Blender of making a house, and bit by bit I completed the basement, the ground floor, the first floor and the second floor. And now you can see our house is ready to be used and will be haunted by Tatya. After completing the house model, it was time for adding texture to it, which is time consuming as I have wasted already 3-4 days in the CREEPIEST pack, so I don't think so I will be able to show this in this devlog. However, I textured the basement and the ground floor. Another important mechanism that I want to add is a clock mechanic, which will basically push the player to complete all the tasks as fast as possible. Since the storyline of the game will be based on old Indian horror movies like One No Moon Day, all demons will be active and will listen to your needs and offerings. So adding this mechanic kind of makes sense if I want to go with this storyline. And as of now, this will be the storyline of the game. The first thing which I needed was an old clock, and making a clock in Blender is very easy. Just take a circle and extrude it. That's easy. And for texture, I picked it randomly from Google, and it looks kinda good old clock with brand new dials, which I will fix later as this model is for dummy visual. Now talking more deeply about the clock mechanics, which will basically drive the game. The game max time limit is 2 hours in real time and will be converted to 8 hours in game. And within these 8 hours, you have to leave this house somehow, or else after the 8 hours, you will be offered to the devil. And you are given 3 chances, which means you can mess up with Tatya only 3 times. And messing with him once causes a loss of 2 hours in game, which means in real time you lost 15 minutes in a 2 hours game. So in short, in game you have 8 hours to leave this house, that is from 4 PM to 12 AM. That will be visible in this clock. Now it was time for adding some jump scare death for the player. So the basic mechanics for Tatya is completed, like choosing random points in the house and going to that point, and in between if he sees the player, then he will start chasing the player. All these things are implemented already. Now if Tatya is close enough to the player, then a jump scare will happen by changing the player's camera to the Tatya's camera, and done, jump scare that mechanic is done. Oops, every time. Somehow this mechanic was not working as I expected. I don't know why. I was confused if the camera blinking was due to the timing issues between the coroutine versus the delta timer which I was using, or there was some other logic error. And as all the code is clustered in Tatya's AI script, it needs some refactoring, which I left pending as it will take time for refactoring. So now let's move on to the next mechanics, and later we will get back to this. As I was having a list of mechanics to add, I thought of adding an upcoming mechanic to the current list because it seemed more fun to implement. And the game mechanic is a picture puzzle, which is basically a puzzle of pictures. In detail, we basically have to collect some part of the picture and assemble them to make progress further in the game by opening some sort of chest or door maybe, which is secret for now, of course, to avoid spoilers before the release of the game. So talking about this mechanic, I thought of achieving it by doing so. The first task is to break the pictures into several pieces, and for dummy purpose, I took a photo of Tatya and made 6 pieces of it. All these things were going as planned, but suddenly I noticed that only one side of the picture is being rendered. So I opened Blender again and just extruded some faces of the picture and made it thick, and now it's visible on both sides. Now coming to the programming part, the picture will be hidden at first, and as the player will pick any part, it will match with the list, and after matching it, it will make that part visible. That's it. So with little bit of trial and error, it was working like charm. And you can see when all the picks are active, we get a message that all picks are active, and we can perform any sort of things instead of just printing the message. So these were some new game mechanics which I added to the game. Feel free to comment about any game mechanic you want to share. And if you liked the video, consider subscribing for getting new devlogs and to follow along the development process of this game. Thanks for watching.